talmidim in Cheder. It's a pleasure to welcome you to what is, for this year, the first worldwide broadcast of a Fabrengen for talmidim of Kita Ches, talmidim of Kita Zayin. Over the course of the year, we've had the opportunity over the past few years to do quite a few such broadcasts, especially in connection to Hasidic Yomim Tovim. And it's our honor here in Cheder in Los Angeles to host the first such broadcast for this year. For the past 17 years, Rabbi Lebiel Korf, Shliach of the Rebbe in Los Feliz, has honored us with taking of his time to come and fabring with us and share with us his memories of Tishrei by the Rebbe. Now, we are Tavshin Ayin Vav now. Rabbi Korf is not from the Ziknei Hasidim that's 75, 80 years old. Not yet. Rabbi Korf was a boy your age in the height of the excitement of 770 in the 1980s, a little bit older than that in the late 1980s, Tashnun Aleph, Tashnun Beis. He was already closer to being in his late teens, 19, 20 years old. But the point is that even at your age, 13 years old, 14 years old, for Rabbi Korf, being with the Rebbe in general, and in particular during Tishrei, was something which he was miyaker, something that he felt was extremely special, something which he was willing to give of his free time to spend every waking moment, and perhaps the times that he should have been sleeping also, to be in the Daled Amos of the Rebbe. And because of that, we now have the opportunity to hear from Rabbi Korf all of these wonderful has from spending Tishrei with the Rebbe. So I ask you to please give Yizarecheretz and your attention to Rabbi Korf as he shares with us his memories of Tishrei with the Rebbe, particularly focusing at this point on the preparations for Rosh HaShana and Rosh HaShana.
Thank you, talmidim. Again, Rabbi Grimam said the purpose of my coming here is, and related especially with children your age, is that something happens on Rosh Hashanah. Something happens in Yomim Nora'im. We learn about it. Your rabbis teach you about it in Chassidus, that something happens, Kabbalah Samalchus, something of major change. Now, as wild as you are, or as not paying attention so much to what's happening, when you're by the Rebbe, and when we saw the Rebbe here, Lamata, in a revealed way, each and every one of us felt in a very real way that something is happening right now in Tishrei. Now, if you want to hear about what's happening, like, is it a busy moment? Imagine you're in 770, you live in Crown Heights, you live in Los Angeles, and all of a sudden, from this quiet community, all of a sudden, so many people are coming. This is starting the beginning, Tishrei with the Rebbe. Right away you see taxis are coming, people are arguing with how much they paid for the taxis, people that don't speak your language, mainly Hebrew, which we try to learn quickly, and French, and many other languages. Everybody's coming to be with the Rebbe. You felt in the place where the entire world is turning to experience Tishrei. And this was what every one of us was able to experience and feel. From the beginning, of course, the month of Elul, the Rebbe would come out only, as we know, before Tav Shemam Ches, before the Ptira of the Rebbetzin. The Rebbe would only come out Mondays and Thursdays, or a day the Rebbe said Kaddish. The Rebbe would come out upstairs to hear Kriya upstairs. The Rebbe would not daven Shachas with the minyan. They would daven Shachas in his room. And the Rebbe would come out by Kriya and wait to hear the shofar from Rab David Raskin, who lay in the Torah. And this is a picture of his father, Rabbi Yaakov Yosef Raskin, blowing the shofar upstairs. Later on, as it got packed, the Rebbe agreed to go downstairs once Tishrei started. So all the people that were there were able to see the Rebbe and participate. The excitement that I told you about was, of course, as the slides will go forward, was with the Orchim arriving. Now, the Orchim arriving wasn't just so simple. This was something which the Rebbe was very involved. The people from Eretz Yisrael getting a Rosh Hashanah to come there, and there was set places where they would come and eat, which was all around 770, not too far. And there was also a place where they were set to learn. As you can see in the slides, I'm not sure if they're going forward with the slides right now, but there was a Rabbi Lebiel was one of the people in charge where they would set shiurim for the Orchim to participate. From Chai Elul until Rosh Hashanah, you felt right away in the air that something very different is happening in the atmosphere, in the environment, and also by the Rebbe. The first moment that really you felt Tishrei, and you saw that was the people with the luggage standing outside, the Rebbe would send out a michtav, a letter for Rosh Hashanah. Everybody took the letter very serious. It was a message for Rosh Hashanah. Besides the Fabrengen, there was a letter. Rabbi Mentlik was known to be the one that would give a shir upstairs in the Zal. You'll soon see a picture. It's Rabbi Mentlik, the Rosh Hashiva. He would go through all the details and the Mara Makaimas, the footnotes, and really make a pilpul out of the message that the Rebbe was sending for Rosh Hashanah. The next picture you'll see is the Archim studying together. Like I said before, Rabbi Lebiel was one of the main people. He used to tell me, he used to write at a Shima, and he used to always tell me, I used to ask him he was a kid. I was talking to him sometimes. He's telling me, this is my job. I have to report to the Rebbe. And of course, the Rebbe was getting a report the whole time of all the Urchim that were participating. Rabbi Moshe Yaroslavsky, in the next picture you can see, is one that served everybody. He started off with a small group of people that he used to serve. He used to stand there with the luggage, make sure they have where to stay in Corona Heights, and he used to actually hand out to them the food. When the Rebbe, by every Fabrengen, used to call over Rabbi Moshe Yaroslavsky, and he would give him the leftover for the Fabrengen for the Urchim. That was done by every Fabrengen. The first time we really felt Slichot, Tishrei, was the first night of Slichos, which we had Motzei Shabbos. A case like Kvius, a year that had so many days of Slichos like this year, we felt it early. If Rosh Hashanah was Monday or Tuesday. When the Rebbe came down to Slichos, all of us were there, 1 a.m, and of course was dancing. The Bachim were Fabrengen before. As the later years, the Rebbe was encouraging the Fabrengens, the Vakaldik, to come shaking to Slichos and explain that we have to do things b'simcha, b'reses, v'zeya, with intensity. So the Rebbe would come down to Slichos, you felt something very different. Now, even though the Chazanim were just Chazanim, there wasn't the Rebbe singing it, but the fact that in the presence of the Rebbe, the intense davening, which was never done throughout the year, was simple. The Chazan would go over, would sing, like a Shabbos or a Yom Tov. It was nice. But the intensity of the Chazan that would go over from Asher, Yeshiv, Yisecha on Slichos, everybody felt in the presence of the Rebbe that something very powerful is happening at this moment. The first thing that happened before Rosh Hashanah was Panim. Every Bacher, usually was a Bacher, wasn't many children, would write a Pan to the Rebbe. You felt that this is a moment that you're writing your personal request to the Rebbe. Pidyon Nefesh is a personal request. And you felt when you went to the Rebbe that it was very personal. I had a friend of mine, a little older than me, that was standing in line on the way to get his pan, and he was arguing. He was being a little cynical. He's saying the Rebbe is saying it so fast. It's not personal. It's general. It's not something that's individually connecting to me. He was challenging it because he really wanted to feel that. And when he went by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe would do it very quickly. Sometimes even so quickly that the Rebbe stopped by him as he walked away, and the Rebbe turned to him and said a second time, and of course, there was no question to him that the Rebbe is giving, and he was able to feel that the Rebbe is giving to every person individually. The line to wait for Panim was also a purification needed. You wait in a line down the block, because if a moment that you jump into the Rebbe, you run to the Rebbe unprepared, sometimes it's as good as quick as it came as it went. But the standing in line, saying the Tillim, preparing yourself that something very big is happening right now, was of course part of the experience and the connection of going to the Rebbe. Every person that went was so quickly, but like I said before, it was very personal. And you felt that you're giving over to the Rebbe all the needs that you have. Young kids don't have so many needs, but of course we know we want to have a good year, but you really felt that you gave it to the Rebbe and it was all taken care of. We know that the Rebbe would take it later for Tkiyas in the bags that were on the Bima. Questions of what exactly was in the bag, how many Panim, what part of the panim. There are many speculations, but we'll leave that to the researchers or those that would heard it from Maskirim, exactly what was there. Initially, panim was only on Erev Rosh Hashanah, but of course, as the line got bigger, the Maskirim would announce from the beginning of Slichos, nobody should wait to the end, and everybody should give it in the earlier days, so the Rebbe wouldn't have to stand the entire Erev Rosh Hashanah to receive panim. Chav Tes Elul is, anybody know? What about? Okay, was this was the right the birthday of Tzemach Tzedek? Okay, I said it is right. The Rebbe would bring the night before Rosh Hashanah, and this is the video. This is a picture of Fabring in the earlier years, but obviously there's a microphone there represents what a Fabringen looked like. You know, the Rebbe did not have mashkin of Fabringen during the later Fabringens. It was only cake and wine, and the Rebbe would give out mashka would only be on a Shabbos Fabringen, and sometimes it could be other opportunities in the earlier years that there was soda and there was half and half soda and mashka that was by the Fabringen. But there's a regular Erev Rosh Hashanah Fabringen was a Rosh Hashanah Maimer, preparing everybody for Rosh Hashanah that you had the night before. Erev Rosh Hashanah in the morning was an intense day. It was a busy day, you know, because the Rebbe is coming early. 7 o'clock used to be Slichos, and the Rebbe would come down 7 o'clock. All of us would come at a very young age, but always there. But it was longer Erev Rosh Hashanah. Rabbi Weinberg, Olav Shalom, was the chazan the first and the last day of Slichos, and he would do it in a very intense way, and the interesting nusach that many of us follow today. That was, of course, the nusach of Slichos. Right after Slichos, the Rebbe would go to the mikvah. Over here, it's a little bit not in order. The Rebbe would go to mikvah right after Slichos before davening. You'll see it in a later picture before Ataras Nedarim, before these pictures I'm going to tell you about Ataras Nedarim. Just to make a pause for a second before we go to the picture of the mikvah. You could pause, you don't have to go forward. I had a personal experience, and when I stand there, I always try to give you personal experiences so you can know what it felt like being a child, being someone very young, in front by the Rebbe at that auspicious day. Erev Rosh Hashanah. The Rebbe already said the entire Slichos. The Rebbe is going to the mikvah. This is Tavshim Mem Gimel, Erev Rosh Hashanah Tavshim Mem Daled. I am then 10 years old. And I'm standing by the Rebbe's car, the last person, and the Rebbe was giving nickels to all the children before he went to the mikvah. As soon as the Rebbe came to the car, I was the last one there, and the Rebbe showed me in his pockets, and he took a hand in all his pockets and went like this, that I have no nickels. And I was young, but I was, was going to tell the Rebbe that I'll get stuck later. The Rebbe doesn't have to worry about me. But the Rebbe turned around, and there was a person that gave Rabbi Krinsky a quarter and a nickel to give. And the Rebbe made with his hands like this, that he's not taking it. And the Rebbe went back from the front where his car was parked by the curb, all the way back into his room to get some nickels. And that was for me. I was the last one standing there before the car. You can understand what an impression it makes in a child. Of course, later when the Rebbe came, more kids came, and more kids were able to get nickels. But an impression it made on a child that you're important. And the Rebbe in his busiest day of Rosh Hashanah, busiest day, every day the Rebbe is busy. But Rosh Hashanah, with the schedule, the Rebbe was very caring about every single person and went back to his room to give the nickel. After the mikvah, we'll go back over here we'll go back a few pages. This is the mikvah. Now we'll go back to Ataras Nedarim. After davening, the Rebbe would take the Ataras Nedarim and the Ziknei Achsidim or Rabbanim would sit over there on top of the Rebbe's bima, or the earlier years it was on the lower part, just by the carpet. And the Rebbe would say the Ataras Nedarim, as the Rebbe's nusach is. You can hear it on tapes. And afterwards, the Rebbe would wish them a good year. And if it was before Shemitah or after Shemitah, the Prusbul was mentioned then as well. The Rebbe would go then back up to the room, the Heichel Kotchai, and the Rebbe would receive panim again for those that couldn't make it till then that day. Anash, not Bachrim, would sign a pan kloli. A pan kloli was a general thing that everyone writes together, giving themselves over to the Rebbe and asking the Rebbe for a good year. And the Rebbe would read the pan kloli. As you can see, the Rebbe is actually reading it. Not always does the Rebbe stand there and read like that, but the Rebbe is actually reading it, leaning on the doorpost of the Rebbe's room, Heichel Kotchai, and the Ziknei Achsidim would give it over, would wait there, would be a microphone, and the Rebbe would always give a response of a bracha. That was also a time that the Rebbe would give the bracha for the new Rosh Hashanah of the new year. We all know Tavshim and Beis and on. My father was involved in that because he would write to the Rebbe for his calendar a request for a suggestion for a Rosh Hashanah, and the Rebbe would give it, and the Rebbe okayed it for his calendar. So that Teishnas Bias Mashiach, and then it was Gulas Mashiach, Divri Mashiach, and there was a whole discussion of Divrei Menachem, but we're not going to go into that right now. So right here we have the Pankloli. After the Pankloli, the Rebbe would go to the Ohel. The Rebbe going to the Ohel on the end of Rosh Hashanah was different than every time the Rebbe went to the Ohel. When the Rebbe went to the Ohel every time, as you can see, the Rebbe was going through the front door of 7. So this is by the mikveh still, because they're re-showing the mikveh pictures now. And the Rebbe would go to the Ohel from the front door of 770 up until Tafshim Mem Vav. Tafshim Mem Vav, the Rebbe had the Rebbe was not doing well with his sciatic nerve. The Rebbe's walking was very difficult for a month. And the Rebbe started going through the side door, which later on, when you see pictures, the Rebbe was going through the side door. Every time the Rebbe went to the Ohel, the Rebbe went alone with Rabbi Krinsky, the driver, and the Rebbe would sit in the front seat. Not going to explain now why the Rebbe would sit differently when he went to the Ohel in the front seat. When the Rebbe went to the Ohel of Rosh Hashanah, other maskirim would go also in the back seat and sit there with the Rebbe. The Rebbe is going now with the panim to the Ohel. When the Rebbe got to the Ohel, as you could see, they would come out and go into the Ohel a special way. They would knock on the first door before he went in. Before the Rebbe went in, it was 1 year that I was there. I was a child. Not many people know this, but the Rebbe actually went without his sneakers, without the Ohel sneakers. The Rebbe went with the shoes. I saw. And right before the Rebbe came to the front door, the Rebbe took off his shoes, and then it wasn't like now with a paved floor. It was rocks. There was a little pebbles, and the Rebbe stepped on it. And later on, of course, in the room, Rabbi Groner brought and the change that happened in that room. But Rebbe went to the Ohel and stood in that room, as you'll soon see, behind this plastic. I had one to schus. I was standing schus or not. I was a little not doing what I was supposed to do. I was looking what the Rebbe was doing. But you definitely see the Rebbe looking through so many panim that the Rebbe was looking at, and some of them Rebbe would stop and just start reading it. And sometimes you see the movies, the videos of the Rebbe putting a hand over his head by certain parts. And then would tear off little pieces and put into a bag. I also noticed once the Rebbe looking at an invitation of one of the characters in 770 that was just a funny invitation. And it just occurred to me that the Rebbe, out of all the letters, the Rebbe stopped and read through that entire invitation. To me, it meant again something. At Rosh Hashanah, what's important to the Rebbe's care for every single person. And it doesn't necessarily, what looks to us as being important, to the Rebbe every single year is important at the holiest moment. The Rebbe came back from the Ohel, usually very late. The Rebbe came back from the Ohel. I even saw one time the car pulling up and the Rebbe's door opening while the car is still in motion. You saw it's dark outside already. It was already after Lich mentioned. The Rebbe came back very late many times, but it was right before davening. The Rebbe came back from the Ohel. One time, I think it was Tafshim Mem Ches. The Rebbe went upstairs to Mincha. It's Erev Rosh Hashanah. All the Balabatim are downstairs. They have their bought seat and they're sitting ready. The Rebbe just came from the Ohel for the entire day, davening for everybody. And everyone's waiting for the Rebbe to come downstairs. We're the Bachrim pushing upstairs to see the Rebbe by Mincha. And all of a sudden, the Rebbe started to sing Ach Tzadikim. The Rebbe took his hand on the stender, Ach Tzadikim. And it went for a long time. And the Rebbe was going very strong before going downstairs. Other years, it was a Sicha, it was Shnas HaBinyan, when the Rebbe talked about putting a pushka right before Yom Tov in your home. But there were various times that we saw something special happening by Mincha of Rosh Hashanah. Davening on Rosh Hashanah. Davening on Rosh Hashanah was so intense. And the Rebbe came down every day to shul, and we're not here to judge what looks serious, what doesn't look serious. But the Rebbe would come with the Cheder inside, almost exactly at 10 o'clock, or any other time the Rebbe would come down. And the Rebbe would go without an intense look that you would see. The Rebbe would say, of course, the Rebbe's face is always serious. But there was something that you saw different on Rosh Hashanah. There's something that every one of us was able to feel and see that this is something which the Rebbe's davening is different. The Rebbe came with more Sfarim. There was a Machzer and a Siddur that the Rebbe had. And the Rebbe also had with himself various begadim of previous Rabbeim. I know there was a gartel from the Tzemach Tzedek, they say, or other parts that the Rebbe would wear. Also a scarf, a colorful brown one on his neck as a handkerchief. It was not a scarf, like a handkerchief. And the Rebbe would also wear a new handkerchief on the second day of Rosh Hashanah to make a Shechianu. All these things were different minhagim. We were able to notice something on the Rebbe on Rosh Hashanah. When the Rebbe came down for Rosh Hashanah, the Rebbe would start Avinu Malkeinu. Right away, start into the mode, even though it wasn't a part of the Nusach, to say some Tehillim and do Avinu Malkeinu to start right away the Negunim and the Tfilas of Rosh Hashanah. The day of Rosh Hashanah, of course, the highlight was Tkiyas. Many of us would go and blow shofar in hospitals, old age homes, go do mivtzayim. And Tkiyas was an intense moment by the Rebbe. It was the only time that Hasidim were able to truly participate with the Rebbe and to see something the Rebbe is doing and like you're part of it. The Rebbe's avodah is not something that he's revealing to us, but all of a sudden, an intense avodah the Rebbe reveals to us. So while everybody was going with Soyim, there was years way before I came to 770, they already established that there should be reserved places because everybody would come and they would have to come again and fight for it. So the front rows by the bima was set places. I stood there for a few years. It's very difficult. It's very, you have to believe that you're going to be able to breathe and everything will be fine. But you're as tight as can be. You don't think about your body. You don't think about yourself. And after the sixth or eighth row, you're just what they call a washing machine because you're just being moved around the whole time and you're drenched as you're hoping for just to get the fog out of your eyes so you can look at the Rebbe a little bit and not everyone's busy wiping each other's fogs so you can look at the Rebbe during Tekiyas. Of course, the Rebbe would come to Tekiyah, they would call it the Haftarah. The Haftarah was a very intense Haftarah. There were a lot of times I heard the Rebbe crying by the Haftarah. And then was the Avodah of Tekiyas. The Rebbe had a few shofars. The Rebbe would initiate with the Rebbe Marash shofar, which was there was a different color one, there was a black one, there was a yellow one, and then there was a curved one. And the Rebbe would put the bags, the 3 bags, by the way, that were by the Rebbe's stender. There was a table next to the Rebbe's stender in the front, stender, that the Rebbe had in front, and there would be a table right next to it. And the 3 bags, which were like if you ever bought matzahs, where you have these paper bags and you wrap it with a string, those are 3 bags that were sitting there all the time. So during the whole davening, the bags were right there during Rosh Hashanah. And when it came to Tekiyas, the maskirim, Rabbi Groner would take 2 bags, Rabbi Klein would take 1 bag, and they would stand behind the Rebbe during the Rebbe's Haftarah. And once the Rebbe finished the Haftarah, they would put the bags on the bima, and the Rebbe would put the Rebbe would put the shofars on the bima and start making all these arrangements. Never understood it. This way, that way, cover it with the tichel, cover this part with the tichel, turning this way. It was something you saw, what they call Rebbe and Haggis, that you never saw all year round. And all of a sudden you saw the Rebbe take the talis. The Rebbe to take his talis and throw it over a bima is something that you can't envision. You see them make with his hands, you see the gunim, but then you see an intense moment. The Rebbe actually said that the Rabbeim, even though there was intense moment of strong bechiyos, the Rebbe said, the Rabbeim would have strong bechiyos, but when it came to the bracha, they wouldn't sing it as other places where the Rebbe said with ha'echa nigun, they would sing it with a nigun of simcha. So the Rebbe would take the talis and put it over the panim, and whatever the Rebbe said, b'chiyos, obviously it was on the Rebbe too. And then the Rebbe would pick up a talis, and you saw the Rebbe's face was beet red, and the Rebbe wouldn't reveal his face. The Rebbe would only reveal till his forehead, which the Rebbe says later that when it comes to the bracha, they reveal their metzach, which you're able to understand by the Rebbe also. The Rebbe revealed his metzach, but till then he wasn't revealing his metzach, which is the forehead, and the Rebbe would hold his talis, covering his forehead like this. The Rebbe would spend a lot of time in organizing the talis, holding the talis away from the Rebbe's head like this, and such intensity, scream out the psukim. Like if I tried, even I don't have the voice today for sure. It was a good farbrengen last night, but the Rebbe would scream out, "Mina meitzar karasika," very, very strong in the entire psukim, and the whole elam, everyone together, you could feel it when everyone said it together with the Rebbe. And the Rebbe would throw the talis back on the panim and only take it off again before the brachas at Tekiyas. As I said, then the Rebbe would reveal his face, put the talis that the Rebbe always does over the shoulder, and start the brachas with the Tekiyas. Very slow, with a strong niggin. Baruch Ato Hashem Elikeinu Melech HaOlam. Very slow and very intense. When that would finish off, Shmei Shofar, it was a scream, and the entire 770 screaming, Amen. You don't have that in any other time by Fabrengen or Samol Chanafshi or something that Rebbe would sing with the Olam that you felt at that time. Finally, after the Shechiyanu, the Rebbe would do the blowing. Various times it was difficult. The Rebbe's trua was different than most people's trua that you have. The Rebbe doesn't do a trua like like most times you hear. The Rebbe would go slow. People were remembering exactly how many numbers, how many times, but there wasn't something I was very good at. You focused and you paid attention and you felt that you were in the moment. The psukim after the tkiyas, also very powerful. It's the Rebbe would go higher and higher by each one of those letters. Asher Ya'am, I think, is a very difficult, at least for me, it's a very difficult note because it's a change of a note in the middle. Asher Ha'am Yoidei Yisruah, and the Rebbe would sing it, of course, very loud. But B'Shimcha Yigilon and Kisif Eres, the Rebbe would go louder and louder. A very important moment by a Baal Tekeah is known that when they say when they look on the Kohel, they look at the Olam, they look at the congregation after the Tkiyas was a very intense time. But by the Rebbe, everything went quick. The Rebbe would go back to his place, the Rebbe's place, after the Sefer Torah. Sefer Torah would go into the Heichel. The Rebbe would put back the shofars into the doors of the Stender. They would close it, and the Maskirim would put the panim back. And the Rebbe would turn around so quickly, like that, and look at the whole Olam. It was so quick. The pushing and the shoving that you want to see the Rebbe at that moment is one of those big segulos. But of course, the Rebbe included everybody, and the Rebbe, of course, included everybody to be included into this bracha. One of the times that I would push myself would be for Birchas Kohanim. The Rebbe would come down to Birchas Kohanim at the bottom of the bima, the low parts. Only people in the front were really close to the Rebbe, and the Kohanim would go up. And it was a long time that I was down there because our minhag is not to interrupt till the last 30 koilos, even the ones after, at the end of davening, which the Rebbe 1 year did interrupt before the last 30. But all the years besides one, the Rebbe would wait and say Yeshakoyach Kohen only after all the blowing. So that would be down there from Zechrenis about, like before Shreifus, Malchia Zechrenis, to get the end of Zechrenis, Rebbe would go down the bottom and follow over there. I used to stand right over there and see the Rebbe, where the Rebbe would cover himself with the talis by Birchas Kohanim. The Rebbe had a specific way, it's written in the Yom Yoim with the Tzemach Tzedek saw, where the Rebbe would say Divarechacha, while the Kohanim would sing Divarecha, the Rebbe would go to, start with the front, right, and middle, left, front, and go alternate the whole way through, and then would shake with the head, with his head, with the Rebbe's head during each one of those words of the brachas. It was a time to be very close that I would make with his hands if the niggin happened, and of course to feel so close to the Rebbe during the time of Rosh Hashanah was obviously something that will always remember. I'll always remember. Always be part of my davening on Rosh Hashanah. I'm not sure if I went a little over Rosh Hashanah. I'm not sure if we're going to be able to cover Yom Kippur, but you tell me. I'll go as long as you are able to keep this talk. Rosh Hashanah concluded, of course, this 2 days Rosh Hashanah, and it was a fabrengen at the end of Rosh Hashanah. A fabrengen was known to be the mimer. All the earlier years was mainly a mimer and nigunim of the Rabbeim, but over the years it became many sichas as well, and of course Kosher Bracha at the end. You can see now as the pictures can go forward, where you have the fabrengen of Matzah Rosh Hashanah. The only way there's a picture is because they once took a picture of a Yom Tov fabrengen before it ended. So you have over here. I see one of the pictures they wanted me to say about was Tashlich. Tashlich was the Rebbe used to go years ago to Tashlich, all the way in Botanical Gardens. Everybody knows the stories from there, but I was not there. When I remember it, was two Tashlich. One was in the library, in the backyard of the library. Over the years, when they made the Rebbe a more elaborate apartment in the library, and they extended the library, so they moved the Tashlich to the Cheder of 770. In that case, I saw the Rebbe going there. I saw the Rebbe asking if there's fish, looking if there's fish. But that's what it looked very nice that I was going to Tashlich, but I don't have much to report from it. They would walk around, look for the fish, and say the Tashlich. Matzah Yom Tov, I said there was a fabrengen, and it was Kosher Bracha at the end. Kosher Bracha, even Matzah Rosh Hashanah, which is such an intense time, the Rebbe would make with such simcha. We remember the Rebbe make with his hands over here, and picture 43. You have where simcha, where Tav Shemam Ches, it started off at the beginning of Rosh Hashanah to be a simcha dika time. After Rosh Hashanah was Vav Tishrei. I'm waiting for your cue of how long I can stay. Vav Tishrei is the yard side of the Rebbe Tzachana. The Rebbe would daven for the Yomit. Can you imagine? All the Urchim are here. It's so packed, and everybody wants to hear the Rebbe daven for the Yomit. Imagine if it's Shabbos. Well, this year it's what? Shabbos. Vav Tishrei was Shabbos. You would hear the Rebbe davening the entire Shabbos davening. So you pushed in the front, you had your close place, and it was, of course, an amazing experience to be the Bal Tefillah of the Rebbe and be part of that, davening to hear all the tefillahs. Of course, Tashmem Ches, Mem Tes We all heard the Rebbe by all the Feliz, but Vav Tishrei was something special. On Tishrei, there was a Fabringen afterward as well, which was part of the experience of Tishrei. Erev Yom Kippur, the Rebbe would give out lekach. Now, lekach, just like Panim, the Rebbe started giving it way before Erev Yom Kippur. So the Rebbe wouldn't have to stand this entire day of Yom Kippur giving out lekach. We've known that the Rebbe would give us so much lekach. Tashin Lamed Ches, when the Rebbe had the heart attack by Shvini Atzeres, they were talking about the Rebbe giving out lekach Shvini Atzeres for so long. Well, we heard before that the Rebbe used to say the Rebbe would come over to them of Sekes, take one bite and go right back to 770. There was no time for anything. So the Rebbe would give out lekach days before Yom Kippur, and everybody was asked to go early and not wait for the last moment. Erev Yom Kippur. Most exciting thing for me was Yom Kippur, see the Rebbe coming out with a chicken. What do you see the Rebbe coming with a chicken in his hand? So that would come from 770, and the Rebbe would go all the way to the porch, to the Cheder. So this is the Rebbe coming out from the front door. The next picture would be probably in the later years, and the Rabbi Shimon Kalmanson, who was the Rabbi Greenbaum's grandfather, would be the Sheikhet. You would see the Rebbe, as you see how the Rebbe standing, you would see a tremble at the moment that the chalav would go on the chicken. Rabbi Kalmanson would pull out some feathers from the bottom of the chicken and give it to the Rebbe, rooster, and give it to the Rebbe, and they would have a dustpan with, by the way, whoever can guess who the guy with the blue shirt is will get a prize. Obviously, I'm saying it. That age, that's probably tough shemem. I am probably 7 or 8 years older. We would go and we would try to get every moment by the Rebbe. Just to show you this picture is that every moment that we were able to, we would try to get by the Rebbe. The Rebbe is taking the feathers and doing the kisui dam on the dustpan that Rabbi Kalmanson would hold while the Rebbe makes the bracha al kisui dam ba'ofar. After kaparas would be mikvah. Then we'll go to the mikvah, and then the Rebbe would daven Shachar. The only 2 times the Rebbe daven Shachar is other than Yom Tovim and Shabbos was Erev Rosh Hashanah and Erev Yom Kippur, and the Rebbe daven Shabbos with the minyan. Shachar with the minyan, I mean. Before Mincha, obviously the Rebbe gave lekach the entire day, and before Mincha, the Rebbe would give coins in every pushka that was out there. Every guy that had a tzedakah, whether it was Mifsayim or L'Torah Shir Beis, Mifsayim Shir Beis Aleph, Shir Beis Gimel, everybody that thought of any kind of tzedakah to collect had the pushkas all over 770, and the Rebbe would go to that table, and the Rebbe would have a bag of dimes, and the Rebbe would give tzedakah to all the pushkas. So this is what you see, the Rebbe with the envelope. This happened every year in Kippur. After Mincha, which is the long Mincha, which you do the Al-Chait, the Rebbe would say a bracha. And it started off with just a bracha. It was a short bracha. Over the years, of course, the sichas got longer, the bracha got longer, and this is called the bracha, the bracha of Erev Yom Kippur. As you can see over here, this is just the Rebbe going to the end of the bima and saying a bracha. Over the years, it got longer. The very, very intense time for Bacharim was the Birchas Abanim, where the Rebbe would give a bracha as a father gives to his own children. Bacharim would catch their places early in the morning and take all their bags of food all day there, wouldn't go home, wouldn't go, leave their place because they wanted to have a front place to be under the Rebbe, right there, to get the Birchas Abanim. In 770 upstairs, they would take out all the windows, all the separations of both rooms, and the Rebbe would give the Birchas Abanim with the talis and the kittel, and a little bit of how I showed you that Rebbe did Batkiyas. That would also many times lean on the bima and say the Birchas Abanim, where he said Vaydaber Yivarecha, as the father says to children, and would do it right before Yom Kippur. It's 12:30. Should I continue? All right, it's up to you. Anyway, so on Yom Kippur, you could imagine, like I told you, Rosh Hashanah, the davenings is something very, very. You felt the intensity of the Rebbe during davening. So you imagine the Rebbe coming down Yom Kippur, talis and the kittel. The Rebbe's kittel was not like everybody else's kittel that you see with buttons. The Rebbe had a pullover kittel and with a V-neck, and it was short in the Rebbe. The Rebbe basically used a kittel that was from the Frierdiker Rebbe, and like I said before, there was levushim that the Rebbe had on Yom Kippur from the Rebbeim. Kol Nidre Rebbe would, of course, say Tillim first, and then would take a hold of Torah on the bottom, not by his place on top. It would hold. This is the Birchas Abanim, just a repeat. Those that didn't see it before, and the Rebbe would go downstairs with the kittel to Kol Nidre, where the Rebbe would hold the Sefer Torah for Kol Nidre. It was one year that somebody wasn't feeling well. He passed away, actually, Rabbi Ishmael Garari. It was a scene to see someone right in front of the Rebbe. Everything stopped, Kol Nidre stopped, and the Rebbe was involved with paramedics. Everybody was getting involved. It was for a long time, when Kol Nidre started. Forget about before Tzesek Yechavim. It was way into the night. 50 minutes. 15 minutes was a long time. But then something which I experienced, I was right there. You saw the Rebbe standing there, giving instructions, and everything stops when it comes to Kol Nidre. After Kol Nidre, and after davening, the Rebbe would stay the entire Tillim. The air conditioner was very strong, and it was freezing because a lot of people left. Not everybody stayed there till late at night to say the whole Tillim, but the Rebbe would be there. The Rebbe would say the whole Tillim. The next morning, davening to watch the Rebbe. I didn't tell you by Rosh Hashanah. One of the moments to see the Rebbe Rosh Hashanah was to see the Rebbe fall Cheder. You never see the Rebbe fall. And the early years, I was young. I was the early 80s, early mems. To see the Rebbe fall to Cheder was just the Rebbe drop his knees, fall himself on his knees, and put the hands on the floor and put the head all the way down. Was something which you saw so quick the Rebbe doing. From Tashim and Vav, they put a leaning stool over there for the Rebbe to hold on when the Rebbe gets up, and of course to see it Cheder throughout a few times in Yom Kippur was also something that we always wanted to see. The Rebbe being there during Yom Kippur, Rebbe davening, the Rebbe did not get the Aliyah from after. Rabbi Chadikov got it. He went out for Yisker, came back in, and that was a powerful thing on Yom Kippur. I want to finish off Yom Kippur now. Look at the screen. You can see the Napoleon's March. This was something that everybody wanted to see at Yom Kippur. You imagine, Motzi Yom Kippur, Ne'ilah, the intense davening. You see the Rebbe, I once saw the Rebbe when I was young, Tashim Amalef. The Rebbe had his hands under his talus. And the Rebbe was singing Avinu Malkeinu the whole niggin 10 times. And that was making with his hands, and it was shaking. And the whole stender was shaking. And it was 10 times. The Rebbe was counting by each one of his fingers and making with both of his hands. And then the Chazan, Lippe Shapiro, wanted to finish off, Avinu Malkeinu, he wanted to finish. And everyone's yelling, the Rebbe is still davening. And then I saw the Rebbe's hands was clearly wet. And it was definitely pchias. The Rebbe was going like this, like let him finish. And this is the intensity of Avinu Malkeinu. And then the Rebbe would start Napoleon's March by the Stende, and the Rebbe would go on his chair. I saw the Rebbe go on the chair. Later on, the chair was against the wall, and the Rebbe would stand on a stool to get on the chair. But to see the Rebbe, Napoleon's March, was the intensity change of the Yomim Nora'im. You felt the Rebbe's intensity to the good Yom Tov, and it's all good. The transformation was felt by even young kids right at that moment. The beginning of Napoleon's March, the Rebbe's face was red. The end of Napoleon's March, the simcha, the intensity was amazing. So you see at the end, the next pictures was Matzah Yom Kippur. There was a good Yom Tov v'samachta. This one is actually Tashim Em Tes. Tashim Em Tes, I'll tell you quickly what happened there as the webinar finishes. It was the Rebbe asked unusual to Rabbi Grona to check if there's a Levana when the Rebbe was downstairs, something the Rebbe would usually do in his room. And Rabbi Grona went to check, but while Rabbi Grona was checking, and there was a shvil, there was an aisle, a guy, Rabbi Shalom Ber Levitin, walked over to the Rebbe and told the Rebbe, "Ich bin gegangen in Dreisen, ich gesehen es nicht in Levana." So the Rebbe said, he said, "I went outside, I saw there's no Levana." So the Rebbe smiled and said, "Sedah Levana." There's a Levana, but it's obviously behalten. It's hidden. But there is a Levana, but it's hidden. And the Rebbe smiled broadly, and the Rebbe said, "Ei bazei is lech achel b'simcha eslach b'chem." If so, that there's no Kiddush Levana, go home and eat, as the pasuk says, with simcha your lechem. And the Rebbe went out, with a smile continued, and went out. They would go up to the upstairs. This actually is the first time that Freyden came with the camera, and the Rebbe was up on top, and the Rebbe was like looking at him like, you have already your camera, you have already your machshirim. They would go out to Kiddush Levana with the talis and the kittel, and the good Yom Tif, the simcha, the transformation that was felt right then and there after Kiddush Levana was amazing. Cheder, we should experience the Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur with the Rebbe, go for Lamata, and we should know that the Rebbe is the Tata from the Kinder that is experiencing with us now, and it's up to us to want to tune in and to take into our own experience of Yom Tov. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity, and good bench.
Thank you very much to all the talmidim here at Cheder Menachem, as well as talmidim in Chadorim and yeshivas and schools all across America. The Eibusher should help us. First of all, we should be zoicha to aksiva v'chsima tov, each and every one of us, and we should be zoicha this year already of spending Rosh HaShana with the Rebbe. We should see the true Achtaras HaMalchus as it is meant to be. Melech b'yafiyos, achazana einenu, amen ken yiratzen.